Yeah, I had to wear that specifically for PA.
Okay.
Because
So,
I am the person that managed to convince him finally after about 6 years that no goal really should have been no goal. My claim to fame on Saberspace.
all right. I'm Rakesh. I'm here with Dave Bassett, the legendary Saberspace poster Taro T, and we're going to talk hockey. And I am a data analyst and see games on TV. And if I wasn't doing this, I'd just watch highlights because I'll get into later what I'm doing as far as data analysts. So, and Dave?
And me, I'm a engineer by background. Now do something a little different, slightly related, but have been a Saber season ticket holder since the mid '90s, and try to get to about 20 games a year. Try to hit up the weekend games. If they were to make it to the playoffs again, I might even hit up a weeknight game or two. Try to catch all the games that I don't see on live on TV. And back before the Sabres got really terrible, I used to like watching the rest of the league, but that's been kind of depressing the last few years. So I more or less just watch the Sabres now.
Right.
And then watch college hockey or whatnot.
So we're talking a couple days after the trip to Sweden. So where do you think the Sabres are right now?
Really, they're probably about where they should be, kind of on the fringe. That real hot streak, although it was fun, don't really think it was sustainable, but don't think they're quite as bad as their recent 0-4-1 streak would have us believe.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't so much bothered by the second game over in Sweden. I thought Tampa's penalty or power play scored a couple goals, and you lose.
Yeah, pretty much. And Tampa is not a team that you can afford to give up too many power plays.
So, where are you on the new coach?
The new coach, as I've been saying on the Saberspace board, I have bought into the Kool-Aid. I really like what he says, and though the last few games we've been seeing them kind of creep back into some of their old habits, overall I like what he says, and I know there's a lot of people that aren't overly thrilled with necessarily the line combinations he uses, but at least unlike the last couple of guys, he lets them kind of run for a bit and see how they can work out.
They've been running for a bit now.
They have.
And
yeah, barring injuries, he really hasn't changed them at all.
Yeah, and if you look at scoring, Eichel at 210 is way below where he needs to be. And I think part of that is Olsen's not helping them at all.
No.
And something needs to happen there, and it needed to happen, a while back. You
Yeah, I
know,
would I would agree with that. Yeah, Olafson has not been pulling his weight, and really once teams figured out that Dahlin was going to be looking to go to Olafson first off from the point on the power play, they kind of cut that off and making Dahlin go the tougher pass over to Eichel, which I think is a big part of what's kind of slowed Olafson down.
right, right. So, what else do I want to talk about? Where are you on the owner?
The owner, I actually like the Pagulas. I like the fact that we finally have owners that are not undercapitalized, because really, going back to the 90s version of the Knoxes, back in the 70s and the 80s, the Knoxes had plenty of money for this sport. But starting in the 90s, you really needed to be a billionaire, not a millionaire, to own and run the team. And we all know about the issues that the Regases had. And then, although Golisano was a billionaire, he was very adamant that the team would not lose money in any particular year. So we saw some very highly skilled players leave, unfortunately. And now we finally are at a point where once the Pagulas get the right people in place, I think they're going to let them go. And I think that we aren't going to have to be worrying about will they keep the team here? Will they keep the players here?
So is Butterall the right guy?
I hope so. I don't know. What do you think about
I I had a theory that that all the problems were Pagula, and they, Pagula hired Housley, which makes sense, and Pagula told him to trade O'Reilly, in the next 3 days, and that kind of makes sense. But I'm looking at the current line combinations, and I get the same feeling that I had last year, that he's not making the right moves. Look, one of the things that I've been doing this year is keeping track of how often you move the goaltender. And so, for instance, this is St. Louis, Calgary, maybe 2 nights ago. And, this is kind of you're seeing this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is kind of like what a 6-1 game looks like. But it ended up being 3-2. This is Vegas, Washington, a couple nights before. Both teams are very good at getting the team, the other team's goalie to move. This is the Tampa game. It was 4-2 Buffalo, which is the only game all year that they they got made the other team's goalie move more often than the other team and still lost. Most of the time, it's the other way around. You know, the night before, this is a standard Buffalo game where it's 5-1, ended up being 3-2, but it could have been worse because the other team not only has opportunities but really good opportunities, and so my theory is that there isn't enough puck movement in the offensive zone. And I was hoping with the new coach that they'd play a different style, but to me they're playing the same sort of style. So
and see, I would agree with you that they've kind of been sliding back to that. Although the first couple of games, and I don't know if you've got those ones there on your
yeah
chart. The first couple of games, the Sabres were doing a couple of things different than they have been lately, at least from my view. First off, they were breaking out of the zone as a unit, and they were doing a lot of short passes back towards their own goal to set up the cross ice to get stuff moving across. And then once they got up into the other team zone, there was a lot of the short pass setting up before taking the shot. Now we're kind of seeing a little bit of Michael and others kind of trying to do it on their own more and coming.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's basically my point. Is that why is it going that direction? Eichel looked like Perot a couple times, where he wanted to go, from behind his own net and score by himself, and it's like, that doesn't really work very well.
No.
And so, I'm wondering why what are they telling Eichel? So I worry. I worry about where the team is and where they're going, and
Well, one thing that I would really be interested in knowing is how much opportunity these guys have had to be getting practices in. I mean, like,
right.
practice is not the morning skates, which I understand Kruger likes to shy away from, because getting that side-to-side movement, that's something that you work on in practice. And when you're not getting that, you kind of revert to old habits.
Yeah, but, hockey is weird how much preseason they have, because they didn't seem to have, any preseason to learn anything new,
I don't know about that. They had 6 preseason games. They had, before that, a week and a half of training camp.
Was it that long?
It was at least a week
Okay.
before the first games kicked in.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong. So I do a couple of these a day. I didn't get any today because of the plumbing issues that I was telling you about before we started, and so I'm trying to you know compare what other teams do because I think there's different ways to look at hockey, you know, as a system, and and like I don't think Housley's approach worked at all.
No, it didn't.
And but you know he's been playing hockey 50 years. You know,
He did, but he kind of comes back to me being in that boat where he was really offensively gifted, and he never, in all the years he played, really ever got good at the defensive side of the game.
right,
So I think a lot of what he did and what he was successful with, he just had the natural talent, the natural skill. It really wasn't something he had to work at. And the portions of the game that he needed to work at, in my opinion, he didn't. And I think that makes him not a particularly good teacher of the game.
right,
Gretzky tried his hand at coaching for a while. It didn't work. Why didn't
right.
it work? Because how's Gretzky ever going to tell somebody, okay, just know where everybody on the ice is and realize that the puck may be over there right now, and it looks like he's going to come up the boards, but he's actually going to go across the middle. And you just step into that, and you're set.
You're set. So I don't think we covered Botterill yet, did we?
Very, very briefly. You actually no. I guess we really didn't cover him at all, did we? We kind of talked to Pegulas a bit. To me, like you had said earlier, I think that the O'Reilly trade wasn't fully his doing. I'm not sure if the impetus for getting rid of him was from him or the Pegulas, but I'm 99% sure the trading him on July 1st was 100% the Pegulas. Once the decision was made to make that trade. Other than that, I think Johansson was a really good pickup. I really like the Montour. I like the stuff he's done to improve the D. And the Skinner trade looks like it's going to work out.
Skinner trade was just, getting a UFA upcoming, and my understanding is he told Carolina that he'd only go to Buffalo or Toronto, and Carolina said okay.
Yeah, but he still actually managed to come up with something that was good enough for Carolina.
Yeah.
And unlike his predecessor, he didn't end up throwing in a first or something crazy just to make sure that he got the deal.
Right. Yeah, but what I'm optimistic about is that his first draft looks real good right now. There's like 3 or 4 hockey players there that'll be coming in next year.
Yeah, I honestly think that this coming 12 months from about now will teach us a lot about Botterill, because right now, this team is close to being playoff quality. They aren't quite there. I would say they're probably an 88-point team right now. But he's got a abundance of defense. He gains a lot of cap space next year, which he has to be careful with because Reinhardt's going to eat up a good chunk of that. Montour is going to eat up a good chunk of that. And you want to still have room for Dahlin a little bit beyond that. So you can't go too crazy wasting the cap space, but he has assets, and really, if he could make one or two judicious trades, this team becomes playoff caliber, I think, this year. And then they still have guys like Cousins and Asplund looking to come in, and guys like Middlestat to actually become useful.
well, you like him more than I do, so.
Yeah, I like Mitz, but I was there at the World Juniors and watched the U.S. games live against the weaker teams and also Sweden, and then watched him on TV the other couple of games. And he against his peers, he really played well. I really liked what he could do. He had good speed against kids his own age. He had good strength. I know Randall Flagg isn't impressed with his hands, but haven't seen him go into that telephone booth a few times and come out still with the puck and actually scoring a few times off of that. I like his hands a lot better than Randall Flagg.
Well, as I said before, I think there's different ways to look at hockey, and one of the divisions is looking at someone's high point versus not looking at their low point, and I think some viewers are the opposite. If a player makes mistakes or turns over the puck a lot, they don't care if there's high points. That's why I think there's like a big division right now on Dahlin, and some people love him and other people are like, well, he makes a lot of mistakes,
He does make a lot of mistakes, but and on the Saberspace board, I was catching a lot of flack early in the year for pointing out how Dahlin was having a tendency to have the puck roll off his stick way more than we really wanted to see that happen. And then a little bit after I caught flack about that, he started also having some passes that ended up being not some issues with them. And now there's all sorts of people that are really unhappy with his game. And honestly, since he started playing with Montour, I've been seeing some of those things that he's been messing up going away. Notwithstanding one really bad pass in the second game against Tampa, but he's been doing a lot better job of making the passes actually go tape to tape again. And something that he really hadn't done much at all this year, if you watch probably about the last three games, maybe even it started the game before Montour came back with him, he has started making backhand passes to people again and actually hitting on them. If you watch, he for a while there, and I think this kind of goes to the confidence of just being a second-year player, he was showing a propensity to not want to make the backhand pass. he's starting to bring that back into his repertoire.
One thing that I found interesting was one of the power plays in against Tampa. I don't know if it's the first game or the second game. The forward dropped a stick, and normally the point guy on a power play really takes advantage of that. But it didn't seem like he even noticed it happen. Which is kind of odd because there's a stick on the ground and you'd have to notice it. And like, I think what I'm saying is that it bothers me watching a 19-year-old play hockey. And
I totally get that.
But back to Middlestat, if you look at his high points, his high points are great. Where someone like Zabaka doesn't have any high points. But if you're looking at low points, I think you look. You worry more about Middlestat than you use than other players.
And yeah, absolutely, I agree that Middlestat has low points, but if you look at where Middlestat was last year versus where he is now, my wife used to like to joke, and there really was a bit of truth to it, that last year when he was on the ice, Casey was like a golden retriever puppy out there on the ice, just running around like, hey, where'd the ball go? Oh, it's over there. I mean, he was really, really reacting a lot to the play and very unsure where he should be. This year, there's still a bit of that, but defensively, he is getting into position much better, and he's battling better. He's not getting absolutely knocked off the puck.
He is much better this year. I think you're right.
And the one other thing that I would like to still see him improve on more in the offensive zone is last year, and I think part of it is he was focusing on offense so much because he didn't really know the defense. Got to do what you can do. But last year, it must have been at least 6, if not more, like 8 times. He had himself in position to get to a loose puck in front of the net on a rebound so the goalie's out of position, get the stick on it clean, 90% chance it's going to be a goal. And he just couldn't. He lost the battle with the defenseman who he actually had position on. This year, I'm not seeing him get into that position as much. And that might be different line mates or we're having him do different things. But I'm not seeing him get the defenseman just flat out stick battle. You will lose this battle to me. He's getting closer to the challenge there. And again, that comes to being a 19 or 20-year-old kid.
Yeah. What I'm doing with these is totaling them. And no, not that one. This one. So, I didn't add the last Tampa game, but my point is that 3 for the first 15 games isn't enough, and same for Reinhart. And Skinner, you expect to have two because he doesn't pass the puck. But
Well, in fairness to Casey, it looks like you've got him. It looks like he's got a second. Looks like he's got a fourth one in there.
well, the 1, 2, 3, 3. I think I have to do 2. Yeah, 3. But I'm trying to, Johansson's better than I thought he was going to be, and one of the reasons why I think he's better is that he passes the puck to Skinner very well.
Yes, he
And
does. I got one quick question about this. Are you talking about passes that ended up resulting into a goal, or just passes that resulted in movement of the goalie while in the slot?
Normally, there's always a fuzzy dividing line, but I'm basically looking for chances. So here Skinner passed to Deichel for a goal, and here Eichel passed it to Olofsson, who also scored here. But here's one. Johansson passed to Skinner, and then Skinner shot, but he didn't score. Okay. So for the Jersey game, they ended up moving the goaltender 6 times, and New Jersey only moved the goaltender twice. And then one of the things that I want to find here is how it affects goaltending stats, because I've always hated every goaltending stat out there. But if Hutton is only seeing 2 times a game that they're getting him to move, then he's going to have really high save percentage. And here Blackwood was killed, and he gave up 7 goals, sure, but he was being killed.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different things I'm thinking about here. I'm basically thinking about why William Karlsson is good, because Columbus decided that he wasn't a first-line center, and they gave up on him. And like someone like Eichel, it's rather evident since he's probably 14, but why did Karlsson make the progression that he did in Vegas? And people say, well, it's coaching, and it's like, well, what exactly do you mean by that? So that's what I'm trying to study. I do all the Vegas games, and I do all the Buffalo games, and then I try to do the more interesting game. I don't think I've seen the Wild play yet. So,
Yeah, I haven't watched any Wild games yet this year, but I don't think we're missing much there.
No. It'd be kind of interesting to do the Kings because they're trying to have more shots. I think I have the Buffalo Kings game here somewhere. But they're getting killed on the quality of shot. This wasn't so bad. It was 4-4. Hutton played real well the first couple weeks.
Yes, he did.
So I don't know. But because of my plumbing, I am done today. I'm going to cut this a bit short because I will get even less interesting as it goes along. So thanks for doing this. I hope you're up for doing it again sometime.
Absolutely. Just let me know. Now
Yeah.
now that we know how to get the Zoom to work on this machine, we
Yeah.
should be good.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Wild to see if he wants to talk about Sweden, and see if I can find rain, and
Right.
so. All right. Thanks again. Talk to you later.
Welcome. Thank you. Take care.
Yep. How do I stop this?